welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My guest today, I'm going to go on a limb, folks. I'm going to tell you this right now because it's factual. The most underrated castaway in Survivor history. Think about that for a second. All those castaways, all these big shots, right? All these big names, right? Maybe not the biggest name out there, but let me tell you something. She brought it, and day in and day out, she was competing in the physical stuff, in the mental game, the cerebral game, getting it done day after day. And she ended up being a co-runner-up in season 30 of Survivor, Worlds Apart, filmed in August of 14 in Nicaragua, and I believe it premiered in 2015, early first quarter of 2015. So think about that as we go through this interview, and I talked to you about some of the things that she did while she was out there, and then make sure she's in your top 3. Otherwise, you're not a Survivor fan. I'm very happy to welcome Carolyn Rivera to What Would You Ask podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
We are excited to have you, and so are the fans, the listeners, the viewers are really excited about you being on the show. And you'll see that through the questions. We'll start off with our quick hitter questions. These are members that send in questions right away. They're all over the board. And then we're going to talk about the journey. People want to know, how did it start out? What inspired you to interview? What was your audition like? We'll talk a little bit about, we're not going to go through every challenge, but we're going to definitely talk about some of the things you did really well to be a contender in the end. And then we're going to find out what's going on with you today. And then the big question at the end, is she going back to an island somewhere soon? And I think, look, if you don't get her back, we were saying this with Stephanie Kendrick the other day. It's like there's people like that you just want to watch again, right? There's the effort that they, Denise, Cherie. There's people that just get it. And it's not just me naming all the women, but a lot of the guys out there, the Ruperts and the, Boston Robs, Colby, they're all coming back whenever they want. You got to bring some of these ladies that deserve the opportunity because they just kick ass. I mean, I don't know how else you say it, right? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Eric from Dallas, Texas wants to know, how much does the production slow down the show?
The production actually doesn't slow down the show at all because what happens is you're just on camera 24/7. And so there's really nothing to slow down the show.
No retakes, none of that kind of stuff.
No retakes. No. This is not, let's get it right. This is the way it happened. And
figure out how to edit it.
Yeah. They edit it on their end, but the filming is just continuous. And so, people always say, is it staged? Is it? No. Yeah, well, there's no question about that. There's no way it's staged. Ashley from Newport News, Virginia wants to know, what was the best part and the worst part of Nicaragua? The best part of Nicaragua, I like sunshine, and it was hot during the day. So to me, that really didn't bother me that much. For a lot of other players, the heat was too much, but I live in Florida, so I'm used to, 90 degrees and totally humid. So that to me was just kind of normal. The hardest part of Nicaragua was that at night it does get cold. And so, especially if it rains, it's like legitimately miserable.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I can't even imagine. I think about the opportunity if it ever came for me to do it, and I just go like, there's no way. I mean, it's just no way. I mean, I think I was an athlete and all that stuff, and I think I'm a pretty tough guy. Like Carolyn, I'm from the New York metropolitan area, and just you're raised that way, right? It's like I just think I'm bad, but man, I don't know. I've talked to people about the rats under the bed biting on your feet and the bugs and listen. 10 years ago, I tell you, I wasn't afraid of it, but now I'm fearful of all that stuff. Come on, just call me what you want.
We were covered in mosquito bites by day 2.
I know you guys look like, it's 5 days in and you look like somebody beat you up. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And then the weight loss, I mean, I can go there and lose a few pounds. That wouldn't be bad, but that's not what it's about. Eating rice and, Oh my God. And I've heard things from, in Guatemala, you can't go in the water, and then here that you get, this other place. I'm sure everywhere you get a manual of what you can eat and not eat, but I'd screw that up right day one. Oh, look at those berries. Look at that mushroom on the ground. It looks so appetizing. And I'd be in the ER.
Nicaragua is, we actually didn't have anything to pick from. So
oh, really?
We didn't have to worry about berries or fruits or anything. There was nothing. You could fish. If you could figure out how to fish, you could fish.
Carolyn from St. Petersburg, Florida says, Carolyn, you were my favorite on season 30. I wished you won. What are the key attributes do you think it took to win Survivor? Or does it take to win Survivor, she says?
It is a very social game, regardless of how well you do. I think on my season, every season's different. And if you go in with a strategy, it may or may not work depending on who the people that you're going to be around are, because you can go in with this one strategy. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then you find out who you're with and it doesn't work. So you really have to get to know your castmates and really kind of figure out, you have to have the social game, you have to have the strategy, and you have to have the physical game to put it all together, right? That's the full circle. And so I think, on my season, Mike is one of the only 6 people in the history of Survivor that have ever won 5 challenges.
Wow.
So I can't take anything away from him. But
yeah, that's true. I didn't know that. Wow.
Sitting next to me, I probably would have won. I probably would have won the game. So if I could have just gotten him out.
Yeah. His resume, you're right. His resume was too good at the end, right? It was just, he deserved the win.
He legit won every single, from probably 9 or 10 people on. He won those challenges.
Yeah. All jury members.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're right though, because everybody, was pulling for you because of what you've done. I mean, there have been people that were, and you were the oldest one on the show, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of lends itself to, all right, maybe early on they're sizing you up, looking at you going, she's probably not going to do much. And you not only did much, you went out and kicked butt. So that would have played really well to the jury. Like, look at what Carolyn's done. Look what she's done. So I agree with you there. Christina from Pittsburgh says, could you tell us about Jeff Probst? Sometimes it looks like in tribal council that he's giving clues to the castaways. Is that possible? Interesting.
He's asking questions to get people talking.
Right.
Is he giving clues? No. But what he knows is what we're hiding.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And
exactly.
so it's not like he's giving clues, but he's kind of calling people out.
He does definitely do that.
And that's what makes the show great, and we all know that. It's not like you go into tribal council and you're totally clueless.
Yeah.
Everyone who sits in a tribal council has to think that, they could be on the chopping block.
Right. I mean, he doesn't necessarily say, I know there's an alliance. I know you're, aligning with someone, but if you watch Survivor as much as I've watched Survivor over the last 3 weeks, he does, by the time you get towards the end, he's saying, people are going, well, we know there's alliances in here. They admit them. Like they just say, I'm tied to these people. Right. And he's kind of like wants you said it right at the beginning. He wants you guys to have a conversation and you want to be open about it. And that's all he does is poke. And then you guys bring it all open. He'll also call people out for not participating, like saying to somebody, how could you complain about the conditions when you haven't gone fishing once? Right.
Right.
You complain about, you guys being here 3rd time in a row and being upset about it when really in the competitions, you're the first one out. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen him do that. It's even back in the early seasons, he was doing stuff like that. So you're right. I guess he just kind of, you guys ever go back to the camp and have a conversation about what Jeff said or anything like that? Or no, that's kind of not.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about everything.
Yeah.
So
plenty of time.
Yeah, we have a lot of time. Nobody realizes that time in real life is such a commodity. You're like, oh my God, I wish I had more time.
Yeah.
Time in Survivor is death. Yeah. It's just like, oh my God, how long is this day going to go? Especially if you don't have a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't sleep that well. So I remember just like walking the beach, looking up at the moon, seeing where it was, walking the beach, looking up at the moon. It moved a teeny bit. I'm like, oh, good. The time is ticking. That's great. It's going to be morning.
What was the biggest threat at night? Just, is there bugs? Is there anything out there that concerned you at night?
I mean, we had snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would, actually, Tyler was sleeping in the shelter, and there was a snake slithering over him. It was horrible.
That would be checkmate. Take my mic off. Nick's gonna go. Sorry, Nick. You really want to leave? Yes, I do. Get the helicopter. I'm out of here. So let's talk about the journey. Everybody wants to know. A lot of questions. Aaron from Huntington Beach, California, must be tough out there. Aaron wants to know, what motivated you to apply? Were you a huge fan or just love challenges?
Both. So I saw the show in the year 2000. And I was like, this is legit the best show ever. And I was like, I told my family probably at that time, I'm going to be on this show. My kids were too young. And so I didn't even start applying until 2010. And so in 2010, I started to apply. It took me 4 years of nonstop applying.
So let's touch on that a bit, because we have, Carolyn, you'd be surprised at how much we get from an audition standpoint. Everybody wants to know the secret. There is real no secret. It's just, I mean, we could ask you and get your opinion, but I hear that a lot. People are applying and applying and applying, and there's so many, and then they got to cut it down. And then you said 5 years. Is it 5 years, 3 years with zero contact, no interview, or did you get longer in the process? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I actually got lucky, I'll call it. I sent in a tape in 2000 my first audition was an open casting call. And I flew to New Jersey. I got my girlfriend. We went to Atlantic City. I stood online for 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours for my 30-second video. I got to the front and they're like, so why do you want to be on Survivor? And I'm like, oh my God, it's such an adventure. It was a disaster. I did not get called back from that one. You'd think after being online for 5 hours that I would have thought about what I was going to say for the 30 seconds, but I didn't. And then I got to the front and I blew it. So then I said, you know what? I'm just going to send in a tape. So I talked to my son. I'm like, you're the producer. We're going to do this tape. We're going to send it in. So we did the tape. It was so corny. But I sent it in. I was commuting back and forth to work. I sent it in on a Friday at noon. And I was flying back home to Tampa, and I had a stopover in Houston. And I turn on my phone, I have this message, I get a call, and it's like, I'm so-and-so from Survivor. And my heart's palpitating. Oh my God. I legit sent in the tape that afternoon and got a call within hours. Wow. But of course, I missed the call. And then I had to get on another flight. So I knew I wasn't going to hear anything for the whole weekend. And so I'm so excited, but so pissed that I missed the call. So that Monday, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get this call back because I left a message, and nothing, crickets, nothing. So now I'm freaking out. Of course I call back, voicemail. No response on Monday. No response Tuesday, no response Wednesday. I am legitimately calling them 50 times, at least. Maybe even 100. But thank God I did not leave messages every time. So I didn't get a call back until the following Monday, which was 10 days later. So I'm like, I can't believe I missed the most important call of my life, blah, blah, blah. And the guy calls me back and he's like, Carolyn, you are your worst enemy. I'm like, what? He's like, I got 7 messages from you. And I'm thinking, only 7? I called at least 100 times. So, so I got a call back every time I applied, but I never made it past that until the season that I got on.
So what happened? So you get a call, you talk, they say, we'll follow up with you if something, you hang up, and not the one you made it, but that time you never hear again from them. Never. There's no call back. There's no email saying, thank you for applying. We'll keep your file, your resume on file, your video on file. No. So tell us what happens when the year you get on? Go take us from the process there.
You go to you get flown to LA and then you go for your finals.
Is that the final 50 or whatever they call it or something like that? Or is it 100 or whatever? You don't even know.
They have, so many different finals weeks, right, and you go through one of them. So, so I went to finals and that was the first time that I ever made it past the initial phone call.
And is that audition, is that the, Mark Burnett and Jeff Probst, is that visit when you're out there?
Yeah.
Is that intimidating? It has to be. You're in front of an icon.
They want it to be,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because you have to be able to withstand intimidation on an island.
Yeah.
And be starving, freezing, and with crazy people.
Right. By the way, you mentioned some things in the bio I was reading. You were like, pet peeve is like people that are lying. It was like, uh-oh. And then another one was
lying.
Yeah. If I wanted to take something, it would be like a blanket because I don't like to be cold. I'm thinking, oh, Carolyn, if I didn't know you were a runner-up, I'm not sure you'd survive.
He's a wuss. Yeah.
Well, I knew you were a New Yorker, so I guaranteed you get through. Mark from Boston, Massachusetts wants to know, is there any way to prepare for the conditions on Survivor?
I mean,
is there anything to do with your diet, your food you eat? Are you working out more?
No,
is there any kind of...
Here's the thing. I did not prepare anything. So that's not probably the best approach. A lot of other people, they tried to make fire in their backyard, at least try. I was working. I didn't have time. I didn't even think about it because I figured, well, somebody else is going to know how to make a fire, right? I prepared I always go running. I always go to the gym and work out. And so I continued to do my normal routine. Now, these days, everyone needs to know how to make fire. Yeah. Like that is a staple in Survivor. Yeah. I should have I should have done that back then. Because I don't know if you remember on our season, the white collars, none of us knew how to make fire. We didn't have fire for 4 days. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we were pretty hungry. We couldn't cook our rice because we couldn't make fire. We couldn't drink water because we couldn't make fire.
Oh. So when you leave, and then we're going to move on to actually while you're out on the island, but a couple of questions on before you get out there. Do they tell you where you're going? Do they tell you what type of clothes you need to bring? Do they tell you what the weather's like? None of that is discussed at all.
No, you have no idea where you're going, and you don't really know what to bring.
Just that was from Janet from Chicago. Janet, listen to some of the other interviews. They talk about when they leave tribal council, they were blindfolded and they're put in vans and dark window. It's like, this is a game, but they're not joking about this stuff. It's like, they're for real. You know what I mean? They're not playing. There's not like, walk out of tribal council and talk to the other tribe and, hold hands. It's like somebody's walking with you and you're not supposed to talk to each other. They don't want you to converse. They don't want you to scheme. They want everything on video, like Carolyn said. It's really amazing. And I'm not just plugging the podcast because,
yeah.
But check it out because it's really a lot of the things that people are saying. So let's talk about One more question. I gotta ask this one from Mikey from Queens.
From Queens. All right, Mike from Queens.
And he puts a Y at the end. Mikey. He's got to be Mikey from Queens.
Mikey.
I love it.
All right, Mikey.
So Mikey wants to know, did you have a favorite male and female castaway before you went out on the island?
Actually, I did. I liked, well, it's funny because I really did like Boston Rob and Sandra, because those are the two staples that everyone knows and everyone loves.
Yep.
But besides them, I actually liked Denise and Malcolm.
I knew you'd like Denise because she's kind of like you guys are very similar in their efforts, and I don't know which one it was I was watching her, but the thing was to dive in the water, go underwater, and like take a puzzle piece and let it pop up and then get it and swim it back. She went, and then you're supposed to do it one after the other. She did it 3 times in a row, just her. And I'm thinking, could somebody tell her to, like, if I'm on the thing trying to stay on this island, I'm going to say, I need to go. You know what I mean? Like, there's 2 guys standing behind her going, way to go, Denise. I'm like, you're out. Because she's doing the whole thing. How do you get rid of her? I don't know. There's a strategy there too, right? But anyway, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk about some of the things that the person that I just said is the single most underrated survivor out there. First of all, you find a hidden immunity idol, right? And you're watching everybody scour around, looking all over the place. And your analogy is, the tree looked really weird. And from what I'm, when I know of where they hide this stuff, I forgot, was it So that was digging into tree? Like she's in the tree and you're like, like you've been trying the tree, it's not there. And you walk over and like stick your hand in like, the tree, and out comes, and by the way, I loved your reaction. You're like, yes, it was, tell us a little bit about that, how you came up to the immunity idol. Do we miss anything?
Oh my God, no. The best, I had kind of like, I've always watched Survivor, right? So I had a list of all the things that I kind of wanted to do on the show. One was not get voted out first, find a hidden immunity idol, win individual immunity, make it to the merge, make it to Final Four, win the game. So I did everything except for the last one.
That's awesome.
So when I found that hidden immunity idol, I was so excited because I knew my husband and family, my kids, would be so excited about it.
So there's your energy right there, right? That's awesome. That's
like, I can't wait to tell them.
That's so cool. That is really cool. The other thing you did, which made me a fan, was you used look, folks, if you're in Seattle, I'm not busting you. I just know where I'm from, right? So there's a sense about people, right? And you grow up not trust, in my view, right? Italian from the Northeast. My family, my father was a fire chief, and he would say, you got to get to know someone before you trust them, right? It doesn't just come because you like hanging with them. You really got to get to know them before you trust them. That's how I was raised. So when I say the New York mentality, that's what I'm talking about, right? And it might not be shared by everybody. And if you're in, Naples, Florida, you might have it too. I'm not just saying that's what I know. So bear with me and don't send me a bunch of emails about them. But anyway, because I already know that. But what I'm saying to Carolyn is she had a really good intuition. I call it a New York sense, but about So. She never trusted her. Never, right? Tell us about feeling that. Did you go with your gut for most of the time in your thoughts about people on the island?
I try and get to know people pretty quickly, right? So you got a lot of time to talk on the island. So you talk to people, you figure out who's who, you figure out what they're all about, and you make decisions right away. Our best play for that first vote was not to vote out So. It was to vote out Shirin. Because if you think about who was the weakest link in terms of challenges, it wasn't So. The reason why So went home is because she came after me. So instead of, joining forces and figuring out how we were going to make this tribe strong, they always look at the older person and they immediately say, well, let's get rid of the older person. So you go into the game already at a disadvantage. So you've got to be able to prove yourself. And I would have voted out Shirin, but nobody was on board with that. We couldn't get enough of the votes. And so therefore, when I found out So was coming after me, you know, my queens kicked in a bit and I was like, oh, no, you don't.
That's awesome. One of the other things that you did, which was, I mean, really inspiring, was the way you competed. I mean, it was just, you know, you give this lady a rope. I don't know, it was the rope where you spin with your wrists. She wins that. Then she's against, I forgot the guy she was against. The other thing where they're leaning back with the rope and you're holding it. Yeah. And all of a sudden Tyler's falling down. And it's just like unbelievable how you competed. And I think you won back-to-back individual necklaces, didn't you? Yeah. I mean, that's just, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, from someone I know you worked out. I know you had a good fitness regimen, but man, that's some tough stuff when you consider, Carolyn, the conditions, right? You're not sleeping well. It's not like you went home and had 8 hours of sleep. You watched a little TV, you talk to your family. You're going home and, you know, maybe eating a handful of rice and you're probably freezing and there's no fire in the early day and you're not sleeping well. And then you're going to go out and do some of challenges that you would never do in life and supposed to do well. I mean, it's just amazing did that make you, I mean, it must have made you really happy about how well you competed.
Oh my God, I was so thrilled. But it's so funny because that the first individual immunity challenge was the pole. And I use that as my example of when people allow themselves to fail, because there is no way that I should have lost that challenge. None. I mentally gave up on that challenge. It was me and Joe left, the only two. We're up there for an hour. So I'm the oldest one on the tribe, and he is the most athletic on the tribe. He's 25 years old. And we're both on the pole. And he is struggling. But I actually was not really struggling yet. Yes, I was uncomfortable, but I kept looking and you know, it had just rained. The pole is getting slippery. He's still up there. I know he's an athlete, and I let my mind talk me out of winning that challenge. And I was livid. I couldn't even, if there was a mirror, I wouldn't even have been able to look myself in the mirror because I was like, you are such a wuss. What is wrong with you? And I then used that energy to say, there is nothing standing in my way of not winning those challenges, because the one where I was holding on to the rope, it was girls against the guys, and it was Shirin, Sierra, and myself left in the game for the girls. I knew Shirin was coming after me. Sierra was on my side. Sierra drops first. Well, so it's me and Shirin. Yeah. There's no way that I could let go of that rope. Yeah. I didn't even move. If you saw my rope, it didn't move one time because I was like in the zone.
Yeah, you didn't look like you were uncomfortable even to the end. You even like,
oh my God. I couldn't even open my hands afterwards. They hurt so much.
That's amazing. Yeah. Let me ask you this. This is not one of our quick hitter questions, but let me ask you this. When did you realize during this whole ordeal that I can win this thing?
I think I realized it when I got to Final Four. Because if you don't make it to Final Four, you obviously can't win it, right? So as I was getting closer, you know, Mike kept winning, right? And so that kept putting a damper on things. And then in Final Five, they all voted against me.
I know.
Oh, no. It was 6.
6, yeah.
There were 7 votes. It was the extra vote. There were 6 of us left. But there was 1 white collar, 1 no collar, and 4 blues, right? So I was at the bottom, right? And so if I didn't have an idol, I would have gone home that night.
Is that the best move that is the best use of an idol in the history of Survivor? Everyone voted for you except one. Dan, right? Dan went home, I think.
Dan went home.
Yeah.
Because, well, Mike didn't vote against me because he knew he wanted Dan to go home.
Right. But there was only one vote. Dan, you had all of them except one vote, and Dan goes home. And you're sitting there.
And he had an extra vote.
Right,
and
right.
Like, woo!
You were dancing on the bench. You're just like, yes. I'm like,
I was just like, because I honestly did not want to use my idol until the next, I had one more opportunity to use it. I literally got it the very first episode, and I kept it till the very last episode that I could use it. And so I wanted to hold it one more time just to like guarantee me a Final Four spot. But I knew that I was going to get votes, and so I couldn't take a chance, because it's so funny, because everyone, all my friends, that very first tribal council when white collar team lost, I had an idol and I didn't play it, right? And that was so risky because I got 2 votes against me, and you know, I could have gone home the very first person out of the game. Yep. But I just, you know, even when I watch it now, my heart palpitates like, oh my God, I hope I don't go home. And then, no, I'm not going home.
So let's talk about post-Survivor. Now you end up being co-runner-up. You come home. We know you had to sign like the Bible to say, and your family signs, and everybody signs, because folks, don't forget, this is a game, right? And it has to be played like a game, and everything's got to be fair, and lawyers got to look at everything. And so you do all that. And one of the keys about Survivor is no one speaks. You go home, and there's no winners. I wasn't there. I was on a long-term vacation or whatever you tell people. Only the family knows, and the family's all signed away too, right? So you come home, they probably do some announcing, some marketing of the show coming up, season Survivor, and here's and we're doing an introduction of the cast. And wait a minute, who is that? Carolyn from Tampa? So people start realizing you're on the show, instant celebrity in town. Tell us a little bit about the initial stuff before we get into the whole show starting.
Well, so interestingly enough, we got back in September, and the new season for the fall was airing, which was actually season 29. And I had been talking about Survivor for so many years to all my friends. And I took a leave of absence from work, right? And so everyone was like, she's got to be on the show Survivor. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then the show airs, and I'm not on. And so I'm cool. I don't know why you didn't believe me in the first place. You know, obviously I would have been on the show if I was on Survivor.
That's good.
And so I actually got a reprieve from that, because of course everyone's asking, you know, what's that? And you come home and you're a toothpick with mosquito bites from head to toe. So I got away with it. And then once it was it was truly announced, I just really enjoyed toying with people, because at work they would be like, so are you, going home tonight? And I'm like, just watch it tonight, So every single episode they thought I was going home because I played it up, and it was so much fun.
That's really cool. Let me ask you this. I just brought up a point about coming home emaciated and bug bites. Did they do any of I know they do, there's an initial physical. Is that on your dime, or they check you out, or do they give you the shots, or do they make you go get all this stuff?
Oh no, they give everyone the shots. They don't take.
And when you leave, are they recommending, or do they don't care? We're done with you. Do they recommend you immediately go get a physical because of what you've been? I mean, you've been bitten by everything. You've been malnourished. Are they recommending a doctor's
pills, and you take some
vitamins and stuff
that they give you, and some people actually did get sick after they had what's it called? Not termites, but I don't know. Anyway, they had bugs,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And they went to the hospital and they got taken care of, or whatever. Knock on wood, I was fine.
That's good. That's awesome. So you come back, you find out, you do all of that stuff. A couple last questions. Any big misconceptions about Survivor after going through it? Did you think about, oh, this is how it is before I went there, now I go there? Was there any of that kind of, oh, I get it, this is different than I thought? Any misconceptions?
No, not really, other than it just makes sense to be a little bit more outdoorsy friendly, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't take it for granted that anyone's going to know how to make a fire,
Yeah.
you know, because you probably should know how to make a fire. And in my season, the very first time that I ever made a fire in my life was on day 38 to win the fire challenge.
That's
and
right.
stay in the game.
Wow.
So it's, you know, that was also risky. You know, if I was up against Mike, I would have lost in 5 minutes. At least Rodney didn't know how to make fire either, and it took us both an hour. But, you know, that's probably not a good strategy.
Yeah, exactly. 2 last questions. Did you exceed your expectations going in? Did you had to, right? I mean, and even though you think you're great and I mean, runner up is not a bad deal. Yeah, we'd love to be, you know, champ, but
I mean, I think I played a great game. I honestly do. Yeah, I didn't exceed my expectations because I wanted to win, so I can't say that I exceeded them, but I met them.
There you go. That's great. Before I ask you the final question, I want to ask you a sub question, which is, since you left, have you talked to anybody from Survivor at all?
I talk to Survivor people all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last question is,
I just met up with the white collar tribe in California last week.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
That's awesome.
5 out of 6.
Everybody wants to know, the number one question asked when Carolyn was on the show, will you return? That's the question. Everybody wants to know the answer. Now, we know if you've been contacted, you can't tell us anyway. So she's going to say she'd love to, I imagine, I hope.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was up for second chances and I didn't get enough of the votes to go in.
Wow.
So fans, if you love me, another second chances, you better all vote for me because I'm ready to go back. But that question's not up to me. It's up to Jeff Probst and the executive producers, you know. I know that Jeff said, you know, probably 2 years ago, we love Mama C. We're definitely going to have her back. So
he did say that.
Call me.
Yeah, I mean, it's and you guys, it's on you guys now because you know, it's I don't want to say out of sight, out of mind. That's not fair, but you know, I've told you this is the best player not to win, in my opinion. I mean, just it's unbelievable, underrated to the max. And so you guys got to step up and start sending stuff to Jeff Probst. I'll give you his address and we'll get it. No, I'm kidding. Listen, it's been fantastic. I'm really excited that you were here. I know the fans are really excited you're here as well. Thank you for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Awesome. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
All right.